I'm Avery.
And I'm Mel.
This is the Veda Lounge Podcast.
All things Vedic, cosmic, and magic.
For yoga teachers, entrepreneurs, creatives, and coming back to your own center.
We explore themes on living like you practice to knowing your nature.
Join the conversation for an embodied homecoming to illuminate your radiance.
Through getting nerdy with Vedic sciences and self-discovery, cozy into your cosmic cadence. All right, welcome back. I am so excited to share someone who is dear to my heart and I've gotten the honor to get to know. And actually, I was on her podcast, I think a couple years back or a year ago. She is the founder of the Aligned Expressions podcast and also a fellow author. Sherry Steine is here with us today. Welcome. We're so excited to have you.
Well, thank you. It is such a pleasure. I am just extremely excited to talk about this topic, and I am so happy to be in your presence as always. I've been following you for, I think, about like 4 years, and we've been having some intersecting conversations, and then now I'm finally having the opportunity to study with you. And I am just extremely elated about it. So
I always say one of the coolest things about this work, especially with the yoga therapy side and all of it, is that you get to meet just incredible people like yourself. And I want to share with everybody just some things about you because, oh my goodness, I mean, truly in these settings, we oftentimes go, okay, teacher, student, but really you guys teach me so much, which is another reason I'm so excited to have you here on a topic that I dabble in because I'm intrigued by, but I know you hold this expertise. For those listening, I want to share. So Sherry is a RYT 500. She is in the process of becoming a yoga therapist. She is a home energy practitioner. She's an NAHA certified level 1 aromatherapist with a compassionate and holistic approach to wellness. She specializes in ancient techniques that promote physical, mental, and spiritual resilience. You know, her commitment to the well-being of her students and her clients is so obvious, especially as she looks at it from such a holistic perspective. In her sessions, because she offers one-on-one sessions and she works with students across, I know, online and in person. She creates this collaborative environment where students can explore and address various aspects of their life. One side of it that's so interesting is she understands feng shui with aromatherapy, the Ayurvedic aspect of things, and the yoga component. Sherry works closely with her clients to increase body awareness, strengthen and empower mindset, and develop effective problem solving and coping skills. Another magical thing about Sherry that I want you guys to know is that she integrates the principles of Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine into her aromatherapy practice, which we're going to get into a little bit more as we go. You know, she creates custom essential oil blends tailored to her client's specific needs, and she draws from Ayurveda. She considers the dosha, or the body constitution, and imbalances to select oils that promote balance and harmony within the body. With her knowledge also of Chinese medicine, she chooses oils that harmonize the flow of qi, or life energy, balancing yin and yang, and supporting overall wellness by targeting specific organ meridians, which is so fascinating. Sherry, currently, to add to this magical toolbox she has, she's exploring Jyotish, Vedic astrology, and how that can enhance aromatherapy as well. She's customizing blends based on astrological insights and aims to help clients navigate life's challenges and move beyond obstacles with greater ease. And I have been so blessed to be able to actually get an experience with one of her blends that she customized for me. And if for those listening, you can't see it, but on the video I'm sharing, it's the Mystic Alchemy, and it's about my 11th house, and she connected it into my dashas. Like, it's amazing. Like, oh my goodness. And I'm like luxuriating in using this daily. It's amazing, Sherry. So thank you for being here. Now that we gave everybody context of your magic, so excited to have you here.
yes, I'm just feel the vibration the vibrational energy just online here, and your words, your poetic words, which I always love, which is the part of your astrological chart, but we won't go there at this point in time. But yes, it's a pleasure to be here and to join your wonderful audience.
Well, I would love to start with a little background on your journey into essential oils and things that maybe would, like, I think that there's been this uproar of interest over the past decade on essential oils, but the depth that you have been able to integrate, I'm curious about your journey with it and just interesting things you've discovered along the way.
My trajectory into this essential oils aromatherapy world started out with me working with a client in my past interior design business, which I used to do a lot more feng shui and so forth. And I saw these bottles of essential oils in her home and started asking her about it on a consultation, which led to me being involved in an MLM essential oil company doing sales and so forth. But I found that I really was not like a person, I'm an introvert. So sales and me don't always click unless I have a strong knowledge of what I'm selling and that what I'm selling is something that my clients want and need and can relate to. I found the MLM world a little bit, for lack of a better word, not always a communicative process for all audiences, okay? All populations, demographics, income levels, things like that, right? So when you begin to get a sense of what your audience is and who you're speaking to, you have to pivot. And for me, I didn't look at it as a failure as far as being a, diamond or whatever it is that you become. I wanted to learn more about how they work and why was it working well for me personally. I used to diffuse a lot of oils, and I liked, my favorite was always lavender, but then I began to think about, I'd like to try some of these other ones. And then I started experimenting with my own blending and so on and so forth. And I ended up, as a result of a lot of investment, with a whole bunch of essential oils that I didn't really know what to do with. And something started saying to me, you know what? Let's learn about what these oils really do and what they're all about. So I had the opportunity to go back and get my aromatherapy certification and really learn and understand what these oils do and why they're so important. They're plant medicine, essential oils in and of itself are ways in which the natural environment helps us heal. And it's indigenous and it goes back all the way back through the Vedas and so forth. You hear about it in the Bible as well. So upon actually going back to school and learning these intricacies of steam and cold pressed distillation methods in which they take parts of the leaves, the plants, the flowers, and create these wonderful oils, I also learned to respect them because essential oils are very volatile and they can be dangerous if you're not using them properly. So that was the other piece of what I was learning too, is that a lot of times popular culture wants to say, oh, you can ingest these oils. Oh, you can put them directly on your skin. Oh, you can do this. Oh, you can do that. And then I'm learning, wait. I want to be able to educate people properly on how to use them. And I had to learn how to use them better in my home. Long story short, I really love and respect these indigenous plants that we find all over the world in the United States and Africa, the Middle East, Asia, India, South America. All these areas have beautiful plants that are harvested and made into these beautiful essential oils that we use each and every day to help ourselves in so many miraculous ways. So I have pivoted my approach to essential oils and personally, as well as how I communicate the benefits of the oils to my clients. And as a result of going and getting my yoga certifications, I just decided, hey, why don't we combine this as a way of healing and working with movement practice, which is an ancient practice, and aromatherapy. And I am just so happy that I've come to a place where not only developing relationships with the oils, with my practice, but relating back to my students, creating connection, learning, and understanding. And as a result, I started teaching classes around restorative yoga and aromatherapy several years ago and started working with a couple of studios doing it. And now it is a basic part of my practice.
I mean, it's so clear in the yoga industry how the oils really do marry a lot of things or complement a lot of things. But I think a lot of modern teachers don't understand that. And I have been that person who I signed up with doTERRA, I signed up with Young Living. There's all these different things out there, and it can be very daunting. It's overwhelming with information, but the piece that I really appreciate you bringing up is respecting it like plant medicine, respecting its heritage, respecting the derivation, and recognizing that this is not a brand new popular trend. It's something that has been essential in our history, and you see it in all these places. And I love that you connected it to the Vedas, and I'm curious of what you have dove into and learned about Ayurveda and essential oils, because I know, I mean, that's a very common thing talked about. I mean, oil, it's sneha in Sanskrit, it's love, right?
One of the main things about essential oils is that there are what they call fragrance oils, and then there's aromatherapy oils. So when we look at Ayurveda, for example, the word attar, Attar, means fragrance or perfume. And it was central to Ayurvedic perfumery. And Ayurveda has this rich history of using attars. And hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. So, and then linking aromatherapy to medicinal practices. The traditional Ayurvedic distillation involves hydrodistillation, which is an early method of how a plant is boiled, for lack of a better word. And this method has been used for centuries and centuries, starting back as far as 1500 to 2000 years, which is, part of what they were doing with alcohol distillation as well. The Persians were really credited with early essential oil distillation about 1,000 years ago. And early distillation was small scale and involving limited plant types and materials. There was a town called, I hope I'm saying this right, Kannauj, Kannauj, Kannaj, in India. which was the historical hub of attar production and distribution. And that's how this whole thing from the Ayurvedic perspective started. The process was using copper pots and which were used to distill the materials and the water. And it was very labor intensive. And it actually really helps us understand this deep connection between Ayurveda, aromatherapy, and ancient distillation processes. So when we start talking a lot about Ayurveda, what comes up the most? The doshas, right? And understanding your personal dosha, your personal constitution, and all that good stuff. So that's the vata, pitta, and kapha. And this is one of my favorite subjects, so I get really nerdy about this. So vata is characterized by the qualities of dryness, lightness, and instability. Pitta, known for qualities of heat, intensity, and sharpness, and kapha associated with a lot of heaviness, stability, and moisture. The uses of Ayurveda as it pertains to medicinal oils or aromatherapy are for various therapeutic uses. Skin conditions, muscular skeletal conditions, improving circulation, and neurological conditions. And then what's also important with using essential oils is understanding the carrier oils, sometimes known as vegetable oils. This is your olive oils, your almond oils, your jojoba oils, all of these sesame oils, which is really good for vata. So understanding what those qualities are, and how those qualities work with various essential oils. So the purposes of using these carrier oils are to counteract some of or pacify some of the irregularities as it relates to some of the doshas. If you have excess amount of various doshas that you want to stabilize in a sattvic state, you use certain carrier oils along with specific essential oils to be able to combat, for example, with the vata. I'm talking about that because that's basically my characteristic is, for example, using sesame oil, which is really good for the skin.
I got a vata pacifying oil. It is sesame oil, but I think there's a few other things in it from Biome
Yeah,
Botanicals. And it's so interesting when you think about it's not just the oil itself that we're pacifying for the thing, it's how the oils interact with each other too.
right.
I love
And for vata, for example, is warming, because vatas are cold. We're not supposed to drink cold, especially, going into, September, fall. We're not supposed to be drinking cold drinks and things like that. It's all about warming and hydrating, for example. So various essential oils have different qualities in them, as you mentioned, and some of them interact with each other in order to help us with our constitutions or our doshas or our pratikis. The risks involved in some of this is not using these carrier oils whenever you're using, for example, a massage oil. And I massage myself each and every day with my sesame oil and my mixture of essential oils that help the dryness of my skin. So for vatas, for example, is using warming, heavy, and stable oils to counteract the dryness and instability of our constitution and our bodily functions. And for pitta, essential oils can either be cooling or aggravating. So, some of those cooling oils could be lavender or geranium. Heating oils would be cinnamon and clove. And for medicinal oil preparations, some of the warming oils that help stabilize vata is Devadater, which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
Rose, another one. So, these are really great oils for our bodily functions. And as I mentioned earlier, those medicinal areas such as joints, muscles, musculoskeletal issues. There's various oils that can be anti-inflammatory to help with those conditions as well. There's also some things along the lines of what your podcast is about, as far as looking at Vedic astrology and things like that. And this is like, ooh, I love this. So, as I mentioned before, the aromatherapy is really rooted in the Vedas and the Indian astrology, and it aligns essential oils with ruling planets to heal and balance energy based on zodiac signs.
I want to get into the zodiacs because I think it's such because you tend to think, okay, this essential oil for the headache, for this, or representing an intention.
I mean, I mentioned headaches because that was the first thing I was going to tell you. Aries are prone to stress and headache. Peppermint and eucalyptus oils are really great for them to balance that energy and rejuvenate their focus. Taurus, which is my birth sign in Vedic astrology, is vulnerable to emotional stress, which I am. Stiff shoulders, which I do have,
Yep.
and
Next.
so eucalyptus oil is really great for releasing tension and calming the mind. Gemini, which is my Western astrology sign, is basil to really balance mental clarity and connection, because we're quick-witted and we're very moody.
When they connect these, are they looking at because our anatomy?
The constituents of the oils.
Okay.
Each oil has various constituents that deal with mood, nervous system regulation, all of those things. I can get really nerdy about that, and I'll definitely get into some of that in a minute. But when we're looking at for example, let's talk about sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, right? That's part of the automatic nervous system, and you have both of those. So fight or flight is sympathetic. Parasympathetic is rest and digest. So there's various oils that help with calming the nervous system, getting it into, I always think of the gunas, the rajas and tapas and the satya, to really get us grounded. Various essential oils help us. And either through just direct inhalation of the oil, using a diffuser, using inhaler, a personal inhaler, and really combining various oils to help us be able to help us with our nervous system. There's components of many different oils that help us do that. And these have been studied and in association with the planets, with the zodiacs characteristics, and that's how various connections are made. And some of these have been studied by astrologers, by essential oil or aromatherapists who study these things. And I've been really fortunate to really have some amazing teachers that have helped me make those connections. So it's really based on the characteristics of the oil and the characteristics of the planets and the zodiac signs.
That makes sense.
Answers your question.
Yeah, and I like how you brought up with the Mahagunas, always trying to, how do we bring that back into balance? I wonder too, because in Vedic philosophy, it teaches about the Indriyas, which I know we've talked about, the sense organs, and one of those being the nose. However, it's connected to the root chakra and our safety and security. and potentially the effectiveness when you talk about, yeah, we can put some of them on our skin, but just the fragrance, the inhalation, how that anchors us into that safety. I'm curious your thoughts on that.
Essential oils, as I mentioned, have a direct link to our respiratory and limbic systems, and they affect our mood and mental states. So, take lavender, for example, or rose. They both provide antidepressant and anti-anxiety effects through the pleasure response triggered by their fragrance, right? So if you can't smell oils, which sometimes people can't smell, their emotional effects do not work as intended. So as the pleasure of the scent is crucial to their antidepressant and mood boosting properties, it makes it very difficult if a person can't smell them, right?
Right.
So, but they do still have their medicinal qualities. So, going back to understanding this interplay between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So, sympathetic again is the fight or flight. If we're feeling something, it activates perceived threats of danger, where the parasympathetic is rest and digest. So, it calms the body. So there's this interplay between the two of them, and many of us, especially women, I've noticed, spend too much time in the sympathetic state and not enough time in the parasympathetic state. And that's why I have this love for working with women in particular on this. So for balance and harmony, it's essential to move gracefully through these states, right? So aromas affect our nervous system through what we call the olfactory system, reaching what we call the amygdala, which is part of the limbic system that's responsible for processing our emotions, right? So when we inhale essential oils and their compounds travel through the olfactory system, they influence our amygdala, which handles emotional responses and stress. The amygdala assigns emotional significance to our sensory experiences, helping us to determine what we find interesting, memorable, or worth forgetting. So our aromas impact our emotional responses by interacting directly with the amygdala, influencing how we feel and react to various stimuli. One of the things that I really want to stress here is that a lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, that there's several things that I learned through my journey with understanding how all these things work. First of all, when you decide to, for example, use your aromatherapy distillation, and you're using your, whatever you're using, and you have this oil just permeating in your space, do you think it's worth it to distill essential oils for more than an hour? People do it.
I do it because we don't know. Like, actually, as you're saying this, I'm like, I don't know if I've ever been told how long to breathe something in or keep something
So
in.
this is something I want to say, is that if you distill, you should not distill any more than 45 minutes to an hour. Why? Because that smell starts working within your organs for a long period of time, and it starts to really get things confused in your entire system. And this is something that people don't tell you.
Probably because if they can convince you to distill their oil longer, that you'll just keep buying oils, right?
Got it. I'm glad you mentioned it because I was going to say it. So, exactly. It has a lot to do with that. And it's not something you should be, distilling for a long period of time.
What about
Don't
candles?
do it.
Like, how does this work with
Candles are fine. I have this candle behind me. I love this. It's a sandalwood candle. I'll put that on for maybe 2 hours, and then blow it out. I just turned it on. I just put some fire energy into it.
Candles are probably not as potent as just distilling the oil.
That is it, because I started out saying that they're very volatile, right? They're good for the air, they're cleansing to the air. They help us with our respiratory system as well. But too much is too much. So with essential oils, it's always less is more. Okay. The other thing is inhalation. Never use those inhalers all the way up your nose. Just breathe, or even take the bottle and breathe.
Like I'm holding the roller right now because I can smell it, but you're saying keep it here. Don't like put something in your nose.
Like I said, don't put them up your nose, because it can damage inside the tissues of your nose. That's another thing. Never ingest them. We got folks out there saying, oh, put a couple of drops in your water and so on and so forth. Unless you work with a clinical aromatherapist. I go back to the Vedas. Skin conditions, muscular skeletal conditions, improving circulation and neurological conditions, and mental wellness.
Yeah.
Because I work with a lot of students have trauma, and I'm a trauma-informed certified aromatherapist as well, in addition to the NAHA. So I'm always working with what's the external. So we're not, drinking them in or adding them to our water or any of that stuff, or putting them on our food. I'm very, very, very clear about that.
Because years ago, I read somewhere it's like just use lemon oil in your water, but it didn't taste right to me. I'm like, I just squeeze a lemon. I'm just gonna squeeze my lemon in my water. But it's so interesting because that is very socialized too, that you can ingest them. And I don't know enough to have an opinion, to be honest, but I'm intrigued by this because I'm a very less is more with everything, as a yoga therapist, I'm not in the world of nutrition, but I do adopt the belief of how we engage with food through an Ayurvedic lens of you eat when you're hungry, you listen to your body. And I'm a very less is more with a lot of things out there because I really truly think we do need to be alert to why mainstream information gets out and ask ourselves always, is somebody profiting off of this information before we just take it as truth and doing that research. So I'm curious on how this stuff interlaps also with yoga therapy and the work that you've been doing too.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you asked. I had this really excellent opportunity to attend and present a paper that I did on trauma-informed yoga and trauma-informed aromatherapy. And it was up in Boston earlier this year. And it was really a great opportunity to talk about a little known relationship between a yoga therapeutic program or method in trauma-informed yoga, which has been very popular in the last 5 to 6 years, particularly since COVID. And actually pairing that with essential oils that have trauma-informed, trauma-sensitive properties. So this is how I do it. I layer it in several different ways. First, I understand the constitution of my clients, if they're Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So I'm really looking at understanding their relationship, understanding the level of traumas that they have, and then integrating it in both my private as well as my community practice. In certain situations, I will introduce the client with a particular essential oil that has a trauma-informed property in it that is also related to their Ayurvedic dosha. And then look at ways such as acupoints which are various points in our body, just, like acupressure points, and using the proper carrier oil and the proper oil to use in various things to help with whatever trauma sensitivities that a particular client has. So, of course, the ear shin is one of those. Also, I also work with the kidney one, which is below in that little area between your big toe and the toe next to it. I can't remember what it is, but there's this little indentation there that you can mix the oils, put it on your fingertip, and then just do a circular depression on it to help calm the nervous system. Also, right around the ankle area, which I have, given you some instruction on, and also the pulse points just below your hand, just coming in and just soothing it. And ideally, you want to do it for more than a minute, and then you can start your practice. Also, doing pranayama, breathing practices around various oils that have various properties that would help the individual with any, sympathetic conditions as well. And I learned through this process that there's very little, in the way of a relationship between trauma-informed aromatherapy as well as trauma-informed yoga practices, combining the two. So it's interesting that there's still a lot more that's needed in that area, but I am purposely bringing it in to my therapeutic yoga practice because that is an area that I think works well for women in particular, which is the women, the clients that I serve.
Well, the oil is such a good drishti. It's like a focal point. Even as you were saying that I couldn't help myself, I rolled some of mine on. And as I was rubbing into my wrist with my thumb, I took a big breath in and it was such a different experience. So I can see how this could actually really help bring people back home to their body, foster
Yeah.
that interoception. And I'm curious, what makes a oil trauma sensitive? When you're talking about a trauma sensitive oil or trauma informed, like what about the oil makes it?
Various oils have various constituents in them that have chemical reactions. Not all oils do. But there are certain oils that really have calming effects. We all know lavender, for example, is one of those go-to calming effects. But did you know, for example, sweet orange, which is more of an invigorating
Yeah.
citrus smell, has also constituents in it that helps you even fall asleep for some people. So it's really understanding the chemical compounds within an oil that helps with a lot of the mental feelings that people may have, and not all the oils do. There are some oils that I enjoy, like Mei Chang, for example, is an oil that a lot of people don't think about, but I absolutely love that oil. It does something different for me. And, not everybody likes lavender. Not everybody likes a lot of these different oils that are known to be calming. So understanding the client, understanding the chemical combinations that are in an oil that helps with that nervous system, which we had discussed earlier, really is helpful. And there's a one chemical called limonene that's found in a lot of oils like lavender, for example, that helps with calming the nervous system.
No, this totally makes sense. So it's about like these oils have a pacifying effect on the nervous system, and it's more likely that people won't have reactions to them, or like is that kind of as well?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And, we have these five senses in our bodies, right? So the most fastest senses senses are pain and smell. So in 0.9 seconds, you can feel pain, but in 0.5 seconds, you can smell. It's fast. And also, when we're placing oils on our skin, it absorbs like that.
Yeah.
It goes through your blood system, your nervous system, all of those things. That's why these oils are so important, and I respect them so much. And it can calm your body in a way that a lot of other things cannot.
Well, one thing I appreciated when you sent me this that I haven't even seen other places do, but you really gave me the explanation why you use those oils and then how to place them on my body. And I think that, again, that's a gap that a lot of places don't incorporate, and why we are out here in wild essential oil world, like we don't know what to do with this, or even how you just brought up the trauma sensitivity component. So fascinating and makes total sense with utilized in yoga therapy when properly trained. So thank you for sharing that.
You have to really be careful. If people can't tell you what's in a product and if it's not clearly labeled,
Yeah.
then there's a problem. So that's another thing I'd like to tell your listeners, is that you always want people to be upfront, because there's this lack mentality sometimes, that people are afraid that, oh well, they're going to copy my recipe and do it for themselves. Not everybody is interested in creating their own blends and messing around in their kitchen with that, right? But you owe it to your clients to, whether you're doing yoga or whatever, especially, when you're doing asana. I always tell my clients, particularly those that have maybe particular concerns, why this particular pose works for them. What does it do?
Mhm.
What is, what muscles, what joints, what organs, what are we working here? And you develop a relationship and a connection full of trust. If I didn't tell you why I had ginger in here, you wouldn't know. You would say, okay, this is nice and everything, but what is this supposed to do for me?
That's what leads to sustainability, though, too, is like whatever is meaningful is sustainable. So when we allow as providers, that transparency really actually supports your client into a more co-creative journey that they're advocating, and they have agency in their own well-being. So yeah, 100% agree with you on that.
Other things that I want to mention here too, because a lot of people don't understand. So when an essential oil company says, "Oh, we have pure oils," do they have on their website information that talks about how they're distilled? Are they distilled in a way that is not harmful to communities? How are they working with their partners in other countries? All kinds of things. So when we talk about purity, it really means that these essential oils are not diluted with other things, because a lot of people, a lot of companies will sell them diluted, and that means that the price is lower.
Is the
Purity.
issue in the beauty industry too. And I
Mhm.
have a friend who she talks about how she put her body back together after cancer through a lot of changing things in her lifestyle and like learning
Yeah,
so much about how toxic our environments are. And part of the reason, whether it's our shampoos, makeup, lotions, all this stuff out there, is because by diluting with this crap, basically, it's scalable to sell, but it's damaging our hormonal integrity. It's in damaging our nervous system. It's pretty wild how much companies do get away with doing stuff like that. It really does blow my mind that. And I think part of
yeah,
it is the lack of education that's in our culture about even asking questions about the use of things, right?
right. These are very important. And also, whenever you buy an essential oil, make sure that it gives you an expiration date on it. If it has both the botanical name and the official name of the oil. The last thing I'll mention is keep them in a cool, dry place. I keep them in my refrigerator. In my, yes, I do. I learned the hard way. You don't want to put them out in the sun. You don't want to put them directly in sun. Oh, and I just remembered something else. Citrus oils. Never place citrus oils on your skin and go outside in the sun. It'll burn you.
Yeah, I've heard of really horrible experiences people have had by doing that, like on their chest and then going
Oh,
out.
yeah.
And I think in context for yoga teachers, as there's this pressure, and I mean, you think about a lot of these companies sell towards yoga teachers and yoga studios, but one thing that I've seen that can be an issue is, and I think places have gotten better. Most people don't do this, but I always even teach training my 200-hour students very clearly of we never put oils on people's skin, because I've heard of stories of someone dabbing a peppermint oil, like just a drop of peppermint on someone's forehead and then it dripping into her eye. And like, yeah, imagine that in Shavasana, right? We have to be so tender about how we use this stuff and treat it. I think if we just approach it with the respect, when you approach it with respect and reverence, treating it that way, because it is medicinal, whether our Western culture implements it into mainstream or not, it's a medicinal tool.
Yes, ma'am. And whenever I teach yoga and a restorative practice, I always bring one oil to work with, number one. And I educate people about the oil. I give them practices they can do within the class, like using, let's say, bergamot on your ear shin and then just rubbing it and then taking it behind the ears. But we're using a carrier oil with it. So as I'm placing it on your hand, it already has the carrier oil in it, because number one, I don't want to risk someone having an issue. And secondly, that's the proper way to do it, even when we're doing Bianca.
I'm curious for those listening, what you would suggest that they wanted to do their own self-massage practice with oils. Like, what would be a really good start? And do you have a specific routine, or you just kind of do the circles on the joints? Or, yeah.
I do. I kind of do my own routine. I always just, I kind of move upwards and I do my circles and, clockwise and all that good stuff. I would start with one of the tridoshic oils, and I would say start with like lavender or vetiver is pretty good. Something like that. A oil that works with no matter what dosage. Cedarwood is kind of one of those too.
Cedarwood is very
Uh,
nice.
Yes, it is. I love cedarwood. I just discovered Himalayan cedarwood. Sandalwood is another one. And use those with either a jojoba oil, almond oil, fractionated coconut oil, what have you. If I would use like fractionated coconut oil or jojoba oil if you don't know what your constitution requires for a particular vegetable oil is what I call them, and a couple drops, not much, a couple drops of a particular essential oil, like I just mentioned. It will do wonders.
I would love to take us back to the conversation on zodiacs and to
Oh,
deepen into, I know you shared about Gemini and Basil. If you want to share if there are other ones that you discovered or things that have really been insightful as you're learning this connection between Jyotish, astrology, and aromatherapy.
so let's talk about Aquarius, which is a lot in your Aquarians are very unique individuals. They need some balance, boosting of the mood, and positivity, right? So lemongrass is a really good oil for the Aquarius. Capricorn is disciplined, focused energy about it, can get mentally exhausted. So eucalyptus again, you'll find, eucalyptus and some of these oils that are working with more than one zodiac sign is also good for that, as well as bergamot, which is one of my favorites, which helps restore stamina and the mental energy. Um, Scorpio, intense, very curious, and jasmine and patchouli revitalizes sensuality and relieves emotional stress. So one of the things that I have learned as I work with these oils is that various zodiac characteristics can really inform the types of oils and the types of characteristics of the oils. Now, for example, patchouli is one of those oils that is really good in yoga practice, period. It's like one of the go-to
Yeah.
oils. So it doesn't surprise me that it's associated with some of the more intense zodiac signs, right? Um, and then, when you really kind of begin to, which is something that I did in working with your 11th house, is really understanding the planets and the associations with the various zodiac signs. So this was really amazing. The aspects, all of that, going deeping into the doshas. And recently I was in the moon class, which was very exciting. I absolutely loved it. And I really looked at how the moon works with Cancer, for example, and the relationship of the essential oils with that, and taking the understanding of Cancer as a very emotional, uh, family-oriented zodiac sign.
Yeah.
And it's, also looking at the moon and releasing things of the past, for example, and looking at frankincense, cypress, rose, honeysuckle, and patchouli as being a part of that. Mercury, which is a ruler in a lot of my life, and particularly since we just went through that retrograde, looking at mental clarity around the relationship with that, right? So peppermint, rosemary, and lemon really kind of help with mental clarity as it relates to Mercury.
So there's so many overlapping themes to connect,
Yes.
right? It's like it's all the same musical note. It's just like different expressions of it, but they can all resonate with these unique properties that are relevant to that zodiac or planet and so forth. And for those listening, in astrology, it's this, whether it's Western or Vedic, right? You have your houses, which are your areas of life. So when Sherry's talking about my 11th house, the reason that she leaned into that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Sherry, but it's my dasha. So in Vedic astrology, we have these cycles. And
Yeah.
being in a sub dasha that triggered my 11th house, that means those themes are active in my life. Oddly, I'm doing a podcast with you guys right now. That's a 11th house thing, right? So, and it's really fun. And this is why I love Joy Tish so much, is because it really can show us the cycles of what's being activated in our life and what are the lessons we're learning. So when she's talking about using these oils for whether it's the areas of your life or the zodiac, which will be themes, and all of us have all 12 zodiacs. And
Yeah.
for those listening, what I would recommend is really it's your sun, first house, and moon that you can probably deepen into. It's also what transits are hitting your chart. So, we have Saturn retrograde in Pisces right now in Western. So all
Mhm.
my Pisces, everybody has Pisces there. It just matters where that is in which house it's in.
It's
So
in, yeah.
I can see there's probably so many places, Sherry, that you can really collaborate with, so personalized for what people are navigating, as you did with my 11th house, which, this is because my 11th house has Rahu, the North Node. And it's intense. It's been intense. And just, she asked me, how have I been feeling since I've been using it? And, again, this kind of goes back to the episode with the gemstones. I don't, if I
Yes,
didn't have it,
whatever.
how would I be? I don't know, but I can say that, I've been very upbeat and very like bold and getting things moving forward publicly. And just the 11th house themes, it's funny connecting it. It's like, actually, this may placebo, maybe, or it's, or
I mean, it could be. Yeah. And, it's funny that you mentioned Rahu because there's oils for Rahu, there's oils for Ketu. And, so in Rahu, it's, if we're soothing our personality edges, right? It's coriander, um, and lemon, peppermint, rose, and lavender. And those, when we're tempering greed and aggression, which comes a lot with Rahu, is geranium, lavender, and sandalwood, for example. Clary sage as well. K2, high vibrational oils such as rose, jasmine, lavender, lotus, and violet. And grounding energies, rosemary, peppermint, basil, and cedarwood. So there's so many different things that can also, looking at those oils and certain situations, if you need to, uplift a particular planet, or bring down or kind of soften a planet, those oils in the Rahu and Ketu, depending on where they sit in your houses, can be very beneficial as well. So it's just so amazingly, and I could talk on and on and on. And I just want to thank you so much for this opportunity, and I hope your listeners learned some things today about essential oils.
No, we appreciate you so much and bringing of just like practical ways that we can relate to them, understanding little history and clarity around it. And for our yoga people out there, Ayurveda and just looking at the philosophy, fragrance is a practice, like that's part of Paityara, what we're bringing in. And you being intentional with it, potentially maybe we're having too much of a fragrance in our life, or being just in the inquiry. I think it can be so powerful. So Sherry, thank you so much for being here. And are you going to be selling like personalized oil blends by any chance?
Yes, I am going to be opening this practice towards the end of the year into the new year, particularly as folks are interested in understanding their astrology for the year, understanding what's happening in the future. So I will be beginning to work with individuals and doing customized blends. In the near term, I am beta testing a new yoga mat spray and a linen spray, and I will also be coming out with a home smudge spray as well. So I'm so excited about all of those. Also, if folks are interested, I am opening a mentorship program this fall in October, on aligned essentials. And that is a program for folks who are interested in mentoring and understanding the nuances of essential oils, aromatherapy, and how you can use them in your life, in your yoga practice, for your nervous system, and so forth. So it's just a lot of great things coming up, and I'm just amazingly excited. And you have been just amazing supporter in what I'm doing, and you get it. So I just want to say thank you.
Well, y'all better get on her wait list, especially if you want your 2025 oil blend, because I mean, this stuff is amazing, truly. And we really only hit that iceberg tip of what Sherry does because we're limited on time. But you guys go check out our website. The information is in the bio or the description for this episode. And Sherry, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Peace and blessings to you.